Hello everyone. I'm just going to wait a minute just to make sure we get some people in here. Welcome to the live event for SUSOM. We'll be started in about 1 minute, okay? Yes, hello everyone. Okay, well, why don't we just go ahead and get started here. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Alexander Hamilton. I'm a current fourth semester student here at SUSOM on the island. I'm also the president of the student government here. I'm originally from Northern Ontario, up in Canada. Then my family moved to Toronto, and then I moved on down to North Carolina, where I did my undergraduate at North Carolina State. I've been here on the island for roughly 1 year. The purpose of today's session is I've been sent some questions that SUSOM feels that they usually have from some new potential students. And so I'll go through these questions they've given me, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And then at the end of the session, I will go and take some questions from anyone who's watching. So hang around to the end if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, and then I'll answer as many as I can. So let's kick it off. The first question that I have here is, how did you first learn about Saba? Well, I heard about Saba from a former teammate and competitor of mine. He is a recent graduate from here. He has gotten his residency back in Canada in family medicine with the University of Toronto in Barrie. A guy that I used to swim against for a long time, ended up at the same university. After that, I took his old job. So I've been following him around for a long time, and clearly if he can make it back to Canada, that seems like a good plan to me. And yeah, he told me about the school, and he said you should apply, and that's how I got into Saba. Second question, were you fearful as a Canadian to go to an island for medical school? And how did you overcome that fear? Well, I wasn't so much scared about coming to the island itself. For me, it was more the fear of medical school itself. I didn't really know if I was the ideal candidate for medical school, honestly. While I was at NC State, I did well enough, but not anything special because athletics was my main focus. To get over that fear, really, it was once I got here, I found that my work ethic, really, that I had learned during my 4 years at State, really helped me to get through. And it's really helped me be successful here. And I know that not feeling like you belong or that you might not be the ideal candidate for medical school is a concern that a lot of students might have. And honestly, if you come here and you work your butt off, I think that anything is really possible. What were the key factors in your decision to attend Saba? Well, the review I got from Brandon, who was my old teammate who's now back in Canada doing his residency, was a pretty big factor for me. Additionally, my family has recently moved to Florida, so I had no real options left for me in Canada. And I applied here and I got in, and I came down, and I've been loving it since. How does it feel to be in medical school? Wow, okay, that's a little bit of a loaded question. Like I said earlier, I wasn't the best student, really. I really didn't like classes. Really, it was torture to go to class every day. But I've found that since coming to Saba, I've kind of found my calling in a way. I'm here in class every day, and I enjoy the material that we're learning. I feel like I'm working towards something that's really, really exceptional and something that I'm really excited about. And for me, it's just surreal to have found that calling, and for it to be school of all things that I really didn't enjoy to start with. And my screen is asleep. 1 second here. Favorite place to eat on Saba and why? Well, there's a lot of great restaurants here. We have a wide variety of places to go and eat. We have everything from like American traditional, like greasy spoon restaurants. We have Chinese restaurants. We have like fine French cuisine and some fancy high-end restaurants. We don't have McDonald's or like Domino's or anything like that, but we have a lot of good places to eat. But for me, my favorite place would probably be Long Haul. It's a place up in Windward Side, which is just the other village, just up on the other side of the mountain that we're on, basically. It's one of those traditional American places, but they have really good pizza, great appetizers, and it's a good place to go when you have some time off, really, when you go up there with some friends and have some dinner or maybe a couple of drinks. Okay. Can you share some thoughts on island living, especially tell us about housing and food? Well, it's not like living in Canada, and it's not like living in the States, because you're on a small island. But honestly, you have everything here that you really need to live. Like you have a house, you have air conditioning, microwave back there, stove, fridge. You have everything that you need to live. You're just not going to be living to the same standards that you were at home. And for some people that can be challenging, but honestly, with the time you spend between school and studying, you don't really have the free time all the time to really notice that there's that big of a difference. And it's very manageable. You have everything that you need, and honestly, it's not as bad as people think it would be. Next, what is your daily schedule for classes? Well, most days we go from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock with lectures, with an hour off for lunch at noon. Not every day 8 to 5, but most days we're 8 to 5, some days 8 to 3, and then some days you have review time, and then other days throughout the semester they'll just give you the whole day off entirely before an exam. Excuse me. To get ready for that kind of stuff. But I've found that the classes here aren't as drawn out as they were in undergrad. It's the same amount of time, like it's 50 minutes with a 10-minute break. But the classes here are more of a transition, I feel. It's not, here's everything you need to know about this pathway. It's, okay, well, here's the stuff that's medically and clinically relevant. And for me, that's way more important. It's what are you actually going to need to use? And if you find the things that you need to know, and you know them well, you're going to be a great practicing physician. And you really start to learn about the things that you've always heard about, but you really actually know nothing about at all. What is your relationship like with your professors? Well, a lot of the professors here are great. They're really professional. They care about us. They'll stick around in between classes, and they're more than happy to answer any questions that you might be having. And they're usually reachable by email during the week, for sure. And then on weekends, a good bunch of them are really able to get back to you, and they're just overall really helpful and want to see you succeed. I have a couple great ones in particular that really care about not just our class in particular, the 4 semesters, but everyone here. One of my professors has Sunday dinner where a couple of students go over to her place and we have dinner together on Sundays. It's kind of like a nice family feel, really to not only bring you together, but give you that sense of family that you might be missing because you're not living at home. And especially on a day like Sunday, when, at least for my family, Sunday was always family day. So that was really nice to have that, and it honestly, it does help a lot. Are your professors accessible to help you? Yeah, so like I was saying before, they're always available. They have office hours that are accessible. You can usually reach them by email, and I mean, some of them are so quick at getting back to you that you're sitting there thinking, like, were you sitting here waiting for me to email you? But yeah, they're all really, really accessible to us, and they're just helpful, and a lot of them want to see you succeed more than anything else. How does the Saba curriculum and professors prepare you for the Step 1? Well, I haven't written the Step 1 yet, so I can't really speak to the Step 1 aspect of it. but every semester we have a shelf exam for the most part. Almost every semester you have a shelf exam that covers the material that you learned in one particular class. And the exam is written by the same people that write the Step 1, the USMLE. So we have that exam at the end of the semester every time, and I feel like we're set up to answer the questions. At the end of the day, you need to sit down and take the exam yourself, but I feel like we are given the material and resources, not only from the professors, but other students and people who have been through the program before, to really be successful on the shelves at the end of the exams, at the end of the end of the exam period, but at the end of the semester. And the shelves are really actually helpful for a lot of people. Do you enjoy the interactive learning sessions, and do you think that it's a benefit to your learning? Yeah, so a couple times a week, maybe we, as a class, like the fourth semester, we'll get together, and one of our hours or two of our hours of lecture will be interactive, kind of running through a case. So we're given a case about a patient, and we have a full history and vitals and findings and all this kind of stuff, and we run through it together, and it's kind of like what you would expect on a rotation, where you're given all this information and you're kind of trying to figure out, like, oh, what's wrong with this person? Is it this? Is it this? Like, what are my differentials? And like together as a class, you bounce ideas off each other, and you'll yell something out, and someone's like, oh no, it can't be that. Like, they're too young. Or so it's really a good interactive time together, and it really lets you apply what you've been learning in class, because you don't necessarily get that everywhere. And just learning the material from the book or from the lecture is one thing, but being able to have that knowledge in your head and then apply it to a patient case, I mean, that's a pretty big aspect of clinical care that'll be coming up later on in your medical career. How have you found your fellow students? Is there any sense of collaboration and camaraderie? Wow, I cannot speak to how great my classmates are. I've been asked a lot, how do you get through medical school? Like, how do you do it? And honestly, it's my friends here and my classmates, my peers. They're all excellent, and we are a very tight-knit group. And we've kind of been forced to be from day one, starting in the dorms. Like, you're living with 3 other people in the dorms potentially, and you're kind of forced to be really close right off the bat. And I think we've just grown that connection throughout the time, and we're really stronger together than when we're apart. When people aren't on the island for whatever reason, we're all just ready for them to come back because we want to see them again. It's really, really special, and they're very special to me, and they've helped me do great things so far. How do you relieve stress? Well, usually every day I take the time at lunch, and that's like my me time. That's where I hang out with my friends. I don't think about school. And I do the same thing at the end of the day at 5 o'clock. I come home and I do nothing. I watch Netflix or YouTube or something. So that really does help with the stress, especially like right now with the NBA playoffs going on. I've been watching a whole bunch of that, which isn't necessarily the best for my grades, but it's a nice let off and a nice take your foot off the gas and kind of reset. And I think that's really important, to just keep yourself in a really good state of mental and physical well-being at all times. Are there organized games or sports when you aren't in class? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that kind of goes on the island, not just in the school, but the locals have events that go on all the time. Usually once a year they have the Saba triathlon, which is open to both the locals on the island and students, and then a lot of professors even participate. Or you can do a team event where you have one person do each one of the legs. It's an interesting triathlon, to say the least, because the whole island is a mountain. So the saying of the triathlon is that even the swim is uphill. So it's a challenging event for sure, but it's a really good chance to interact with the locals as well, because we're not just on campus, right? We live on these people's, on the island with them, and we need to interact with them. And I think that's a really good way for us to get interacting. Additionally, there's a lot of students will go out and play soccer or football, ultimate frisbee, and they'll just kind of post in the Facebook group like, hey, there's a bunch of us going to play soccer, why don't y'all come down? So that's pretty great. And I think that's a nice sense of not only stress relief, but like coming together between the 5 semester classes that are here on the island. What groups are there on campus, and can you join them? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of events, usually throughout the semester, that are put on by different clubs. And today actually was the club fair, where all the clubs came together and they sent representatives to the Fishbowl, which is one of the big study areas on campus. And we held an event with all the clubs so people could come out and see what kind of clubs are there. And they could sign up for any of them at that time. We had a big raffle from donations from the local vendors, which was really nice as well. We have everything really. We have things from like sports to like journal club, religious groups. We have a surgical club, like things like that. That you kind of, especially the surgical club, where you get to learn some of the procedures and things that you really want to learn as a medical student that you might not get until later in your time on the island, but you kind of get a hands-on time with things like suturing or IV clinic, where you learn to draw blood or place an IV. That's pretty great. And then the religious groups are amazing too. We have a Sunday service every week for the most part. And then there's also, with it being Ramadan right now, there's the Muslim Student Society, and they are putting on catered dinners for every student that was willing to do that, and not only just people who are celebrating Ramadan, but for any of the students. And it kind of gives you an in, I will say, with other people's religions, and you kind of get to understand them maybe a little bit better. What are the steps you took to secure funding from both provincial and private sources? Well, right now I have a private loan through TD Bank back at home in Canada, and additionally I have OSAP funding through the government of Ontario, and it hasn't been that difficult of a process. The people in Devon's are really great with getting everything lined up and giving you the right information, and basically when you get your acceptance letter or anything along the lines of that, you have all the things you need basically to secure your lines of credit, which is pretty nice. And from what I understand, I believe Saba is one of the only places that has funding in Canada. I'm not 100% on that, but I know that I was able to secure government funding for my time here through the Ontario government, which was pretty nice. What have you heard about Saba's Canadian reputation prior to applying to the university? Well, I hadn't actually really heard about Saba before I had talked to Brandon, and he told me I should apply here. But it seemed that as soon as I was accepted here, and I was starting to tell people that, like, oh yeah, I'm going to medical school in the Caribbean, and I'm going to Saba University, a lot of physicians just kind of came out of the woodwork. And it seemed like a lot of the doctors I was talking to, they either themselves were Saba grads or they knew another Saba grad. I mean, that was like really foreign to me, because it's something I had never heard about before and had never heard anyone talk about. But it seemed like it just kept popping up again and again. One of the doctors, actually, I believe, that I used to work alongside with when I was working in emergency medicine, he actually was in one of the first graduating classes of Saba, so I thought that was pretty cool. And he only told me that once I told him that I was accepted here. And did you work closely with Saba's Canadian Financial Aid Department, especially Cheryl Jones? Yeah, Cheryl was amazing. She was really on the ball, got me all the documents I needed, any like proof of enrollment, anything like that. So I usually just sent all my OSAP documents to her, and she would complete the documents for me, and then instead of sending them right back to me and having to figure out how to get it sent from the island back to Ontario, she would actually just send it on to OSAP for me on my behalf, and I thought that was amazing. And even last semester, I had to do my tax returns, and I had emailed her inquiring about what they had in terms of documents that they could provide me, and she just replied back in 20 minutes and said, oh, if you check online on your student account, everything's already been uploaded for you. So they're really on top of the ball, which is really great, because that's something that I don't really have the expertise in or the time really to kind of go and figure out what documents I need or where I need to sign and who to send it to and how do I send it. They really took care of everything like that. That's all of the questions that they have sent me, but if there's anyone who has any questions that they'd like to have answered at this time, I have some time where I'm open to questions to anyone who wants to ask, so I can hang around for a couple minutes. If you have anything that you'd like to ask, please feel free to post below, and I can answer some questions. So I'll take any at this time. All right, well, I'll give it another minute for anyone who has any questions. Feel free to post, and anyone who watches this after it's gone live, feel free to add me on Facebook. I'm usually pretty available, so I can answer any questions you send me. Yeah, honestly, I'd love to answer any questions that anyone has, and just hit me up. And I would like to thank everyone for coming in today and listening to me speak. It's nice when people want to hear you talk, even though I kind of ran through this quickly. But for now, thank you very much, and good luck in whatever you pursue in the future. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, yep, there we go. So if you have any more questions, yeah, ask admin, and they will get everything sorted out for you. So thanks a lot again, everyone, and have a good night. Bye.